Okay, here we go, you guys. Let's see what they're saying about this trial.
Not be able to rule out the reasonable doubt that Karmelo Anthony may have acted in self-defense. Self-defense is a fundamental right guaranteed every American. The law is clear. When self-defense is raised by the facts, the law puts the burden squarely on the prosecution to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the citizen accused did not act in self-defense. The law does not expect or require the citizen accused to prove that they acted in self-defense. It's actually the opposite. The law requires the prosecution to rule out the reasonable doubt that the citizen accused may have acted in self-defense.
And let's go right now to someone who was inside of that courtroom listening to these opening statements. No cameras, but we have our eyes and ears inside of the courtroom. Cody Thomas joins us now live outside of the courthouse in McKinney, Texas. Cody, good to see you. Tell me about those opening statements. First of all, what was it like being inside of the courthouse for those?
Well, yeah, Julia, as we know this judge is really laying down the law inside that courtroom, being very strict on how people go to and from the courtroom and about, us as media using electronics. He even admonished members of the gallery for whispering to each other, saying if he caught somebody whispering again, I didn't see anybody whispering, but, he just said if he saw that again, they'd keep them out. He kicked them out permanently. But, Julia, to touch on those opening statements, of course, the prosecution is continuing the narrative that we've heard from the beginning since April of 2025 that Karmelo Anthony was under that tent for no good reason. He was just there, and then Austin Metcalf and his friends came up to approach him to say, get out from under the tent, to which Karmelo Anthony, the prosecution says, got aggressive, reached in that bag, pulled out a knife, and stabbed Austin Metcalf. But the defense in their opening statements painted a different picture. They began by humanizing Karmelo Anthony, talking about how he had 2 jobs in high school, how he was, a brother, a son, an oldest brother, how he was a 3.7 GPA A student in school, just really painting him out to be a good human being before diving into their version of the facts of the case. Now, of course, we've heard that statement from eyewitnesses or a witness on the stand, or not on the stand, in the area, saying that Karmelo reached into the bag saying, touch me if you want to, or see what happens if you touch me. And that's what led, when Austin pushed him, he stabbed him in the chest. But the defense attorney says it was more of a, as long as you don't touch me, we'll be cool, implying that, everything's fine. I understand there's a verbal altercation going on here, but just don't put your hands on me. So that was the narrative the defense painted there. They also said that Karmelo was under the tent because he was seeing somebody he was familiar with, a friend of his still girlfriend now, somebody he'd been acquainted with, somebody he recognized. And then they walked through some of that video, Julia, showing that Karmelo Anthony was under the tent for about 2 minutes before Metcalf, his twin brother, and their friends got to the tent, and the whole ordeal went down in about 4.5 minutes of both parties being under that tent, Julia. But again, emotional out here. I'm looking around it here. There's a lot more demonstrators than there were yesterday during jury selection. So, each side is here. It's a polarizing case, of course, that has got many headlines across this country, but those opening statements were definitely powerful on either side.
Notes, Cody. We're so fortunate that you've been able to share with us what is happening inside of that courtroom. Tell us more about the surveillance video, because your notes on this were very interesting. What were you able to see? And then I also understand there was a reaction from the victim's family when that was being played.
Yeah, Julia. So that's in the opening statement. They were referencing surveillance video, and of course, everyone wanted to see video. We haven't seen anything. There's been a gag order on this case since the very beginning last year. So they start playing this video. There were 5 different angles of the video getting walked through from testimony by the forensic video analyst, and they were very wide angle videos, Julia. And the witness had to talk about how he had to use this software to zoom in and try to make the video as clear as possible. And even then, Julia, I won't lie, it still looked very fuzzy and hazy. It definitely sets the scene. You can see what's going on, but even the prosecution distinctly said that you won't be able to uniquely identify anyone, but they referred to Karmelo on the video as the person of interest, and they referred to Austin Metcalf as the victim. Of course, as the forensic analyst has digested this video and dissected it and pointed out everything that we need to know, going through shoes and the type of clothing they were wearing. So we identified who each person was in the video, even though they kind of just looked like humanoid blobs. But you see one thing that stood out to me, Julia, is that, I'm very familiar with track meets. I was under the impression that, when you go to a championship track meet, you have multiple tents on the same side of the bleachers. But in this video, because it's early in the morning, just before 10 a.m. when all this happened, the high school where all this went down, Memorial High School, it was just an isolated tent in the bleachers by itself. There were no surrounding, schools or anything in the general area. You saw some schools walking in, but I guess, the meet was just starting. But anyway, they identified Karmelo walking up the bleachers, kind of walking towards the tent. He kind of goes towards someone, and you see him standing there for a couple of minutes. Then you see Austin Metcalf, his twin brother, and his friends walking up and getting under the tent. And then once everything's happening under the tent, it just kind of looks like a blob of people. You can't really make out anything that's really going on for 5 to 6 minutes. And then you see a quick to and from. And they were implying that was like the push, the initial contact. You can't really see anything happening. Before then, you see people walking by. They're not really, turning heads as if something's loud and, something's catching their attention. But all of a sudden, you see that to and from, and then you see Karmelo, or who they identify as person of interest, who we're assuming to be Karmelo Anthony. He runs out from under the tent, and then he's running down the bleachers, sprinting a ways away from the tent and out of the stadium onto the track and everything towards one of his coaches. And eventually after that, we see another angle of the video where Karmelo has been taken into custody by police. But the reaction, Julia, it wasn't a visceral reaction. When you saw the to and from, of course, that's the stabbing action, if you will. All I saw him sitting 2 rows behind Austin Metcalf's father, and his head was just kind of in his hands, kind of like this. Wasn't necessarily crying, but just implying that he doesn't really want to see, even though you can't see the stabbing, but he knows in his mind this is the moment that his son lost his life. So he was just there, obviously overwhelmed by everything. I'm sitting right behind the Metcalf family. Karmelo Anthony's family is on the opposite side of the courtroom. But again, the video, not as impactful as I thought, but it definitely is a scene setter to help us understand clearer as to what's going on, since we haven't seen anything so far in this case.
Incredible detail, Cody. You're setting the scene for us. Not being able to see what's going on in this case that has so many eyes on it is really helpful. You also broke some news for us earlier when it came to the jury. There have been a lot of questions about who's on this jury, what may be their demographics, how will that impact a case that has had a lot of polarization racially, especially online, even though we know these parties say, even the prosecution today in the opening saying this is not about race. But what have you observed about the racial makeup of this jury?
Yeah, Julia. So, of course, this, with the optics of this case, this story here, young black kid, young white kid, violent crime. Of course, people are going to have their opinions. They're going to have their judgments. And, the jury was, that the makeup of the jury was in question. And so, of course, I was in jury selection yesterday, and that jury was seated around just after 5 p.m. yesterday. And I couldn't necessarily see the courtroom today. We saw reports last night that there was no African-American people on the jury, and that held to be true. It's a majority white jury, of course, made up of men and women. There are 3 Asian women on the jury. One looks what looked to be a Middle Eastern woman on the jury, and another person of darker complexion on the jury, but none of them were African-American. There's a total of 12 jurors, 6 alternates, so a total of 18, I guess I should say. But yeah, majority white jury. All the men are white as well. So the reports were true. No African-American people on this jury. I remember yesterday during jury selection, the defense raised an objection to the prosecution's strikes. In the strike zone, there were 3 black female jurors that the prosecution wanted to strike, and that would have been all the African-American jurors that were available at the time. And the prosecution says they did not strike them on a racial basis, but on an occupational basis, because they were all educators, and they thought that would hold some sort of bias because all of this went down at a school. But the defense's objection was eventually denied by the judge, and the judge, granted the strikes on behalf of the prosecution. So those are the only 3 available African-American jurors at the time, right before the jury got seated. That objection got denied about 15 minutes before it was seated yesterday. So majority white jury, 3 Asian women and 2 women of color, but no African-Americans at all.
Wow, and the judge saying that there were race-neutral reasons for the strikes of the African-Americans in that pool. Cody Thomas, thank you for all of those details. I know you got to get back inside of that courtroom and grab some lunch before you get back, so we will see you later on. There's no escaping how polarizing this trial is. Both Karmelo's mother and Austin Metcalf's father have spoken about the emotional toll here. And joining me now is someone who knows really better than anyone about a trial being this polarizing. He's an attorney who successfully defended Georgia Zimmerman, who was accused of murdering Trayvon Martin. And that was a case that had issues of race and self-defense. It defined that trial as well. We have with us Mark O'Mara. Mark, it is so good to have you on. Thank you so much for joining me. I think you're an important voice here because whether you see it this way or not, there are many people online, people who are reacting to this case. And it often seems this way whenever we have a case where two different parties are of different races. You have a self-defense allegation and one is unarmed, the victim. There's often a reference to the Trayvon Martin case, the George Zimmerman case. Sure. I want to ask your opinion. Do you see similarities here in this case?
Oh, no, there definitely are. It is undeniable. And we can't and really shouldn't even deny the harsh reality that race interposes itself on most criminal trials. It imposes itself on the criminal justice system as a whole. And it does so here in this case, only because they are of different races. Now, I'm not saying that Karmelo had any racial intent in his actions, but we as the observers, right, as the viewers of it, look at this and say, oh, obviously there's a racial component. There may have been nothing in either one of their minds the day that this happened, this tragedy occurred. But we look at it as lawyers and as commentators and say we have to be aware of it because we know, and I've argued for decades, that there's an undeniable bias existing in the criminal justice system against young Black males. Used to be we could never even talk about it 20 years ago or so. Finally, we can talk about that undeniable bias, but it's there. And I would tell you, I'm very concerned that there is not an African American on this panel, and more concerned that the state was able to cross out 3 African American females that were opposed, or what we used to call, what we do call a Batson strike, because of a concern of a racial striking. And that's a problem for this trial, and we haven't even started yet.
Yeah, that's been concerning to a lot of people who are reacting to this. I'm curious what the breakdown was in that landmark trial that you successfully represented George Zimmerman, if you remember. Was it similar? There are other cases. The Ahmaud Arbery one stands out to me, where there was a question of that jury. There was only one African American on that one down in Brunswick, Georgia. What do you think that has, if it has an impact at all on how the outcome may be in this case, and will they have a successful appeal if there's a conviction?
Well, again, my jury was 6 women, only one who was identified as maybe biracial, but no African Americans on my jury. I am very concerned, as I mentioned a moment ago, about the fact that we now go into this trial with a racial component not only existing as it did before jury selection, but now I think exaggerated or exacerbated, because now 12 non-African Americans are going to decide this kid's fate. And just as we had to deal with in the Zimmerman case, you want to have something that people can place their trust in the verdict, whatever it is. And I was sort of hopeful in the Zimmerman case that since all the evidence came out, all the arguments came out, that it would at least be understood, but it was still difficult to trust. When you go into a case like this with the undeniable racial concern and do it with a jury that has no African Americans, not only do you build in a possible appellate issue, but you really build in a social issue, that how is the Black community going to look at this if he gets convicted and say this is a just verdict? They're going to look at it the way they've had to for decades, which is it's a biased system. Here's an example of it.
Oh, wow. Really great insight, Mark. We have to get a break, but you're going to stick around a little longer. We have a lot we're going to talk about on this case. Coming up, we're going to look at the facts of the case, also what we learned from opening statements, but we're going back to the initial report. What did those witnesses on the scene, including the defendant, say to officers right after this stabbing?
And that's what we need to talk about, is the facts. Like, for me personally, going into this whole thing, when you don't give that man, who, regardless whether he's white, Black, Puerto Rican, you need a jury of your peers. And I doubt it if the roles were switched, where the white guy was the one who victimized somebody else, that he would have a full jury of 12 Blacks. Now, I mean, let's keep it real. Like, I think we need to hear the facts. That's really important, because I'm not here to say Karmelo wasn't in the wrong. I'm not here to say that he wasn't defending himself or whatever. I don't know. But that's why having this courtroom like sequestered, like nobody really in there to know, it make it seem like you're hiding something, whether you are or not, right? If we can hear the facts, we can justify it. Because I can look over the color line and say, this black man is guilty for this. A lot of people can't on the opposite race, because race do play a part in it, because it's a black guy and a white guy. Regardless of who got M'd or not, it would be a racial component to it. But the thing is, as an adult, we can look at it and say, hey, let's just hear the facts. Not hearsay, because I go back and forth in the comments, people just, well, this happened. We need to hear the court evidence of what's actually going on. Because yes, for the victim and his parents, I can feel it. I'll be emotional too. But both sides have emotions. And we can say, well, Perry, well, he did it to him. Look, I've been watching these little cases. Last week, it was a black man who just that was on DP, got released because he was innocent after 39 years. So things happen, and this ain't about I'm black and he black. I'm saying, hey, he's innocent. I'm not saying he's innocent, Karmelo. I said I want to hear the facts. Until we get down to the facts, it's going to be a racial component, especially in Texas. Let's keep it real. I'm from North Carolina. In the South, the tensions are high with racism.
Exactly. First of all, let me say this. I have to report this fair and balanced because I have a business. And if I don't, I can't tell you what's going on right now, but if I'm not fair and balanced, it will affect my business. Okay. That's number one. Number two, I had no idea that Court TV was covering this. I literally was just on the internet looking up information and it popped on my screen. So now that we know that they're going to cover it live and come out for breaks and lunch, we could cover it live and be on time tomorrow. So you guys in my chat, thank you for showing up. I don't even know how you got a message. I just hit the live button. I'm still in my pajamas. I look a mess. That's why I can't show my face. Now, so let's do this fair and balanced. Black people are upset.
Right.
And I made a video about this yesterday. We'll go over that in a minute. They're upset because they're saying, how do you have a fair jury of his peers and nobody is black? Like we just heard, I believe he said 3 Asians and 1 Middle Eastern. Well, that's not that's what's going on right now. Black people are upset. Perry, you can be a little more vocal. I'm not allowed to. So I understand both sides. What it's going to boil down to is self-defense. There's 2 types of self-defense that laws that they can use. It could be literally self-defense or it can be stand your ground. With self-defense, you have to prove that at the time that the poke came out of the bag, he felt that he was in danger. Okay, this is what the jury is supposed to be looking for. They say it's also stand your ground because stand your ground says that if I am physically in a place where I'm allowed to be, your house, your track meet, your tent, you're allowed to stand your ground. I'm going to have to go find the definitions, but that's what we found out yesterday. 2 sides are saying, the black people are saying, this is a setup. Number one, you had no intention to having any African Americans on the jury. Number 2 is it's not happening. It didn't go down the way that you guys are saying that it goes down. Now, we haven't heard from witnesses. These are rumors. And I don't even know if I'm allowed to play a tape of a person that says that African American person says that they were there. They know exactly how it happened, but they weren't asked to testify. So we have to hear from the official records. And I don't even know if I can play that tape right now. It's a lot going on behind the scenes. Also, there are no major media outlets there. There are 9 local media that's there. So I'm glad that Court TV has gotten a seat in the actual courtroom. Also, in the overflow rooms, they usually play it on a monitor. I don't know if they're doing that now, but for the last 2 days, they've been just sitting there. Both sides are there. The white people and the black people. White people are usually standing up for Austin. Black people are usually standing up for Karmelo. Black people are saying that, listen, he had a right to be there. That guy put hands on him first. It's in a police statement. I'm not adding to this. It's in a police statement saying that they were at a track meet. It rained. Karmelo went under. The name of the school that Austin went to is called Meadows. The name of the school that Karmelo went to is called Centennial. They said it all of a sudden it started raining. Karmelo ran under the tent. I guess Austin approached him and said, "You're not supposed to be here." He says, and in the police reports, there's discrepancies. You're not supposed to be here. Some people say that he pushed Karmelo. Some people said he grabbed Karmelo. I don't think that makes a difference. He initiated it. They said that Karmelo said, "If I don't leave, what are you going to do about it?" Something like this. I got to get the information in front of me. I just went on suddenly. And Karmelo took the poke out and did one poke to Austin and ran. I guess when he was confronted by the police, he said, "This was self-defense. He put his hands on me." And I really thought that maybe the tape that they have, the school footage, would tell the story. But as we just heard, he said it was very blurry, very hard to see. So now it's our word. I mean, two sides' words against each other. It's a lot going on. And because I'm not prepared, I'm just saying the things that I think I can say right now. It's a mess. It is a mess. And they live in, the name of this town is called Frisco. It only has 9% African Americans there. The town is known to be racist. This is just facts. But let me say this that happened yesterday. Because the judge, and he's allowed to run his courtroom the way that he wants to, but he's doing things that I've never seen before. Like, the lawyers have to go in first. You have to wait a half hour. Then the media goes in. The 9 that they selected, you have to wait another half hour, and then the public can come in if you are lucky enough to get a seat in the courtroom. Never really heard of that before. I think and we just heard the guy that was hold on, they're speaking. Hold on.
Karmelo Anthony trial. He's a defendant charged with first-degree murder for the fatal stabbing of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet. Key pieces of evidence in this trial are going to be the surveillance footage from the stadium and witness statements. That surveillance video has already come out inside of the courtroom. But we're taking a look at what those statements were in the police report from the people who witnessed the incident. So a school resource officer was taking down these statements in the police report. Let's take a look at witness statement number 1. And this is a minor, a witness that was sitting under the Memorial High pop-up tent with his team near the victim, Austin Metcalf. The suspect, Karmelo Anthony, was from Centennial High and was sitting under the Memorial High tent. Austin told Karmelo that he needed to move out from under their team's tent. Karmelo grabbed his bag, opened it, reached inside, and proceeded to tell Austin, quote, "Touch me me and see what happens. No one really thought Karmelo really had any weapons in his bag, and Austin proceeded to touch Karmelo. Then Karmelo told Austin to punch him and see what happens. A short time later, Austin grabbed Karmelo to tell him to move, and Karmelo pulled out what this witness recalled as a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran away. Let's talk about what that statement means for this case. Joining us to discuss, we have trial attorney Mark O'Mara still with us and former prosecutor Nicole DeBoard with us. Thanks so much for being with us and breaking down this case for our viewers. Nicole, I want to start with you. With that witness statement, if you're just focusing on that, if that was the only witness to take the stand in front of this jury, do you think that this sounds like murder or self-defense?
I'm going to say this is going to be a tall mountain to climb for the defense. It sounds very much like murder. There's a couple of things that really create an issue here because under Texas law, you cannot bring a weapon to a confrontation. And based on that statement alone, essentially what we're hearing is that the person who was provoking the encounter, because he's saying, touch me and see what happens, is actually the person who has appeared at the encounter with a weapon. Certainly that's not going to be what the defense has to say about it, but I will say this does sound like a tall hill to climb in terms of self-defense.
Yeah, the defense did try to clean that up in their opening statements with whether he said, touch me and see what happens, or touch me and don't touch me and we'll be cool. Mark, I want to show you witness statement number 2 in this police report. This witness stated to police that they were all sitting on the bleachers under a Memorial High tent when another male he did not know walked over and sat under the tent. That would be Karmelo Anthony. Austin told this male that since he didn't go to Memorial, he had to leave the tent. Austin and the male went back and forth. Then Austin stood up and pushed the male to get him out of the tent. During the time of the arguing, the male was reaching around in the bag that he had. It was at this time that the male took out the knife and stabbed Austin and then left the scene. They're substantially the same, Mark, in terms of what they are saying. There are a few differences, but what's your take on whether or not from those witness statements at the time that this happened, where do you think the jury would land on a case like this?
You know, it's fun. It's going to be a tough call. And I know that's an easy thing to say. You can't lose if you say you're in the middle. It's going to be a tough call for these reasons. When you actually do an analysis of self-defense, there are different components. You know, the argument that Karmelo Anthony was there and he shouldn't have been there. Well, that's okay, but it's not your bleachers. You don't get to throw people out because of a tent. That's an argument that you're going to see the defense make. Why did the eventual victim in this case decide that it was his role to kick him out? And then there's a tussling back and forth. And then, unfortunately, Mr. Metcalf did seemingly start the fight, so to speak, right? He was what we might call the aggressor and pushing him out or grabbing him and touching him. So under Florida law and also Texas law, and when you're the aggressor, when you first start the fight, so to speak, you may lose the protection. If it was Karmelo who started, Karmelo Anthony. Now we get to say shifted because if Metcalf was the one who started the fight, now can Anthony respond to defend himself? We know he can. And then, as was mentioned a moment ago, you know, are you supposed to bring a knife to a fist fight? No. You're supposed to bring a gun to a fist fight? Absolutely not. But if you're there and starting to get attacked, which is what the defense is going to say, can you defend yourself? And what they're going to say is, Anthony doesn't need to wait until the first nasty strike, the first injury. He can presuppose what might happen, and he's allowed to defend himself. But again, really a tough case because it really is in the middle, and we're talking about two 17-year-olds and not making fun of it, but neither of which were acting with real good reason. We joke and say that a male brain isn't fully developed until 25. And unfortunately, the tragedy happened probably because of a mix of testosterone and immaturity that brought these two boys together.
Yeah, Nicole, we talk a lot about whether race has a factor here, but I think age has a really big factor here. And not only the age of the defendant, the age of the stabbing victim, but also the ages of these witnesses who are going to be having to take the stand. This has been a traumatic experience for them, seeing their friend stabbed in front of them. Do you anticipate that they'll be able to shed more light on what happened, or even if at the height of this, they'll be able to say whether there was this initial aggression that Mark is talking about. But at what level would it actually be warranted for self-defense, do you think? I mean, there's this push in the police report, there's the shoving, there's the grabbing. I saw that word in the police report as well. What would it have to be in order, in your mind, to be self-defense?
In order for this to be self-defense, the law says that the person using this deadly force has to believe that that deadly force is immediately necessary to prevent serious bodily injury or death. So this is self-defense. You cannot pull out a gun or a knife, a weapon which can be used as a deadly weapon, say, in response to a minor assault. And that's unfortunately not what the law allows. If you think that you are at risk.
Did you tell me to stop it?
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say this real quick.
Let's let her finish the definition of. Okay, hold on.
Risk of being seriously harmed, it is a different calculus. So that is what the defense is going to have to demonstrate. And really, the Texas law on the defense's side, one thing that might potentially make this a little bit easier for them is once they have made a claim that Karmelo actually believed that he was in imminent danger of serious bodily injury or death, there's evidence of that in front of the jury. Once that happens, essentially what has to happen is that the prosecution has to disprove that. So these witnesses that we're going to hear from, which are just these young kids who are essentially, going to a high school track meet, have to be able to get up on the stand and really explain what was going on. And, on the prosecution side, I think these are going to be really compelling witnesses because of their youth on the one hand. On the other hand, they're going to have to endure adult cross-examination.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of cross-examination and people being on the stand, Mark O'Mara, I know we have to go to break soon, but I want to get your final thoughts. The defendant taking the stand, do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it is necessary here? Will we see that happen?
We always know that our own client is always our worst witness and his own worst enemy. And that's the problem. However, in a self-defense case, you almost have to take the stand to say, here's why I did what I did. Don't forget, self-defense is an affirmative act. I did it and I intended to do it, and here's why. So you have to say the why. The other problem that the Anthony team is going to have to overcome that's relevant to the Texas law and Florida law is if you're doing an event that you perceive to be self-defense, then once the threat is gone, you have an affirmative action to fix things a little bit. Flight away from the scene actually hurts the defense because once you've stabbed, once you've done what you had to do because of your self-defense right, okay, threat is gone, help, render aid. Call the cops, stick around and give your opinion of self-defense. And I know we're talking about 17-year-olds, but anyone who leaves the scene and then argues self-defense is sort of inconsistent with their behavior.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk a lot more about that and exactly what police say he did after he fled. Mark O'Mara, thank you so much for lending us your time and spending time helping us analyze this case. Nicole, you're going to stick around. We have a lot more ahead. We're going to take a closer look at what was said during those opening statements. Cameras not inside of the courtroom, but we have the notes and we're going to break down what was said by the prosecution and the defense as day one of this case in Collin County, Texas begins.
All right, Perry, go ahead. Well, let me say this really quickly because I have to present both sides. I told you how Karmelo's people are looking at it. For the other side, for the Austin side, they're basically saying that you don't bring a poke to a fist fight. Whatever happened, you don't unalive somebody and he can never come back. So that's what the other side is saying. Now go ahead, Perry.
No, and I understand both sides. Well, I'm saying this. I understand what it could feel like on both sides. You feel like, hey, why should my son is no longer here because he wasn't no danger to him. That's how you look at it. And see, with this self-defense thing, and they said, well, it hurts him when he said, I poked, then I ran. Because maybe he still was in fear of his life. I don't know. I'm just saying it could be a possibility that he was still in fear. Because when you getting jumped on, and you could feel like you getting jumped on by a group of people, Isn't that a threat? Like, just because you hit one just to get away, why would you stay there and let the rest of the clan jump on you? When I say clan, I mean group, right? The whole thing is, it's really going to be touchy thing. And I understand, look, I wish that the things for both sides, for both parents, it didn't go down like this. But we're here today. And I want both sides to have justice, right? But to have justice, you got to have a fair trial. And how I'm looking at it, I already got doubts that it's not going to be fair when you don't have a jury of your peers, right? And most of the time in like criminal cases, you get investigations. And I'm just going to be honest with you. In my opinion, I don't know what Karmelo did, but if he actually did it, they should have the burden of proof to prove that case. But I really can't trust the investigation. Did they interview enough witnesses, or are witnesses on a certain side?
Yeah. Speaking of that, there's a tape going around the internet. Perry, talk about that. Now, for you guys that just are coming in, for my business, I own an LLC called Sherelle's World. I have to be neutral and explain both sides. I am intentionally leaving my personal feelings out of it and reporting the facts. Now, y'all can have y'all opinions, and I will drop the link later. Go ahead, Perry. And Perry's allowed to speak his mind.
Well, yeah, and I am like, look, the whole thing is I'm just giving my opinion, and I'm being transparent. I don't know what happened. Just like as you or anybody in the chat, we don't know what happened. That's why it's important to see the evidence in court.
Now, but speaking of seeing the evidence, if you got,
go ahead, Sherelle.
Perry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. For those people that are just coming in, they did play surveillance cameras today, but the people from Court TV, the guy that came out to testify what happened, he said it was very blurry and hard to see, and you just couldn't tell exactly what happened. Go ahead, Perry, about the.
Well, okay, I'm saying this, like, and then I seen this tape. Well, now, because really the problem is when you don't have access to a court case and the hearing and what's really going on, and you got to get it by third party or whatnot, some of it become hearsay, all this kind of stuff. But I'm gonna say this real fast about the judge. That it was adamant about the judge saying, if anybody even whisper in here, I'm gonna ban you. Well, look, you should be the judge and should be able to run your courtroom in an open court. It's certain things that I feel like it's the good old boy network. Now,
well, let me push back, Perry. What do you say to the people who said he's the judge? He knows this is racially charged. He could run it the way he want to run it. What do you say to people that say that?
Well, he can run it the way he want to run it. Well, it's a lot of cases that's racially charged. Is all his cases like this? Closed behind closed doors is what I'm saying. Like, what they're saying is, on this matter, he chooses to act like it's a bigger thing. If he was really looking at making this thing seem fair, you would have it open, just in my opinion. That way, it's no doubt in the black communities, white communities, that everybody heard the facts. Everybody could see who was the witnesses, who said what, and determine why didn't you have other people? Because at this track meet, it had to be a lot of people. And the problem I got with it, they're saying this. Right, now, I'm not sure if it's a knife, that they use a knife, but some people say it was, poke, but that they're saying something that it was something that fix your cleats, but still sharp object, right? But whatever. I'm not in the courtroom to find out if it was a poke or something else, but they're using the terminology of that. And they even said that the two brothers ran over from another tent.
This is rumors. This is the rumors that you heard. Go ahead.
No, I think the lady said, okay, you're right. That's what I heard. That's the problem, because I heard this video today of this father of two young kids that was at the track meet. He said he was by it. He wasn't really watching them per se, but he was watching his kids, and he seen the two brothers run over from another tent right as this incident happened. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know. And he's saying that Karmelo was just already over there. Some people are saying, well, there's true, and I don't know, that he was just sitting and talking to another friend or doing something. I don't know how it came down, but we understand at the end of the day, this incident went down where somebody was unalive. We just got to figure out.
Here, let me clear that up. There's a tape going around the internet, was sent to me this morning from a person, an African-American man, who said that he was there and he wanted to testify. He said that Karmelo got jumped. This is what he's saying. And he said that they weren't under the tent, the twins. They ran to the tent when they seen Karmelo there. He wants to testify to this. He asked to testify. According to him, they said they never called him to testify. Therefore, it's considered hearsay and it's not going to be admitted into court. But that's the rumor that's going around. Go ahead, Perry. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm just saying, look, and that's the whole thing. I think, the race gonna be the issue just because of our country's history of minorities just being mistreated or the criminal system not being fair. And we can't really even argue that it's not, but it's almost a source of PTSD. When we used to things happening, I sort of see it when Frisco, regardless, this judge should be able to have an open courtroom and conduct himself as a judge. That's just my opinion. You can take other precautions, but he's making it private. So, okay, go ahead.
Let me just do that.
With us as we track day one of the track meet stabbing trial for Karmelo Anthony. It's happening right now. They're on a lunch break. And our Cody Thomas is there on the ground. He'll be giving us updates throughout the day. So at any moment, he could come out and give us a new update on what's happening there. But we do want to show you what happened this morning during the opening statements. Both sides only got 20 minutes to deliver this to the jury of 12 plus 6 alternates. Here's a portion of the prosecution's opening statement. They told this jury, we are all here because Karmelo Anthony decided to take a knife to a high school track meet and provoke another young man who he didn't know into touching him, holding an already open knife in his hand and plunging it into his heart. They went on to say that this man decided to commit an unjustified provoked murder and that this case has nothing to do with race. This is not self-defense. Let's talk about the prosecution's beginning of their case in front of this jury. With us, we have our guest, former prosecutor Nicole DeBoard, criminal defense attorney Joanna Nieves, and criminal defense attorney Mario Gallucci. It's so good to have you all on. Mario, let me get your thoughts on this first. I've been hearing you talk about it all day with Ted, but when you hear this fact that the prosecution says they have, that the knife was open inside of the bag, how compelling is that to this case?
So, I mean, the prosecution's trying to make it seem like he went there with an open knife in his bag to cause a problem. I don't see it that way. It's a pocket knife. We're not talking about a machete. We're not talking about a dagger. We're not talking about a switchblade. We're talking about, an ordinary pocket knife that's used on a daily basis to do whatever utility you need to be done. So just by, and I believe you're going to hear this from the defense, just by the virtue of there being an open pocket knife in a bag doesn't mean that he went there with the intent to harm someone. And I think that that's what's going to come out on the defense side once we get this trial up and running.
And Joanna, what do you think about the theory that the prosecution has that Karmelo Anthony's position all along was to get someone to do something so that he could kill them? Do you think that's effective? And is Karmelo Anthony going to have to take the stand to combat that?
Hi, Julia. I definitely think there's a damage that happens when you kind of over exaggerate and emphasize things that aren't necessarily going to be consistent with what the defense is going to put forward. Karmelo Anthony was a good student. He worked. He came from a good family. He's got a support system. He participated in athletics. And you want the jury to believe that he really came to school with the intention of, or a track meet with the intention of murdering somebody. I think that's a far stretch of the imagination. And the prosecution is almost like just over promising and likely going to under deliver in that regard.
We'll talk about the overpromising and undelivered, especially when it comes to that surveillance video that was shown. But Nicole, I want to get your last thoughts on what we just showed in terms of the opening statements. The prosecution wanting to make sure that they say in that little bit of 20 minutes that they got in front of this jury that this case has nothing to do with race and this is not self-defense. Did they need to state that? Are they trying to get out ahead of something? Are they just saying that to the public that is watching and perhaps just feeling very polarized about this case?
You know, that's a great question because, you know, it's kind of like telling a bunch of people who are going to decide the facts don't think of pink elephants. I mean, that's what they're going to think immediately to me. So I'm not sure it was necessary to say that. It is, however, true that the case is going to be all about self-defense or not self-defense. And so I don't know that they revealed any sort of concern for weakness by saying that. And the reality is it's going to boil down to how jurors on this case think about whether or not it's a problem for a student, for anyone, to bring a knife of any kind to a track meet. And I think that that is going to be the defense's biggest hurdle. And, you know, we don't have premeditation in Texas. That's all we have is intent in the moment. And so the prosecution doesn't really have to show any kind of forethought in terms of how long this planning would have gone on. They get to show whether or not the conduct was intentional in the very moment that it happened. And that's it. So I think that the defense has got a big climb here.
A really important distinction there. When it comes to murder in the state of Texas. I do want to show a few more details that came out during that prosecution opening statement. This includes that Austin Metcalf, the stabbing victim, and team were under their school tent at that track meet. That Karmelo Anthony went under Metcalf's team tent during bad weather. Metcalf asked Anthony to leave the tent, prompting a fight where Anthony stabbed Metcalf. Mario, I'm going to focus on one part of that actually has come up a lot online by our viewers. Early on, there was a question of why Karmelo would have been under the tent. And I know I mentioned on air even that it could have been because it was raining. And we found out today that both sides say it was raining really bad. And the school that Karmelo Anthony went to was not one that had a tent. Is that important? Is the reason that he was under that tent important when we had this issue of the prosecution saying he went there to provoke a murder?
Look, Julia, I can't agree with you more. I mean, it's raining out. There's a tent. You seek shelter. I don't think that the fact that his school did not have a tent has anything to do with it. There was a tent. It was raining. He went there. And we just found out during the opening statements that he actually had a friend in the tent that he met and spoke to. So it's not like, you know, there's no tent and he went there with the forethought to start a fight, provoke a fight, and stab somebody. I just don't see that this tent has anything really to do with anything.
Yeah, that was new information that came out about why he was under the tent. The defense saying he had friends there. The state didn't mention anything about that. Joanna, the state did start with surveillance video that was very grainy. Up until this point, no one in the public has been able to see it outside of reporters who were able to go and look at it, take notes, handwritten notes, and then tell their viewers or their readers about what they saw. And now we're in the same situation because there are no cameras inside of that courtroom. What do you think about the prosecution really hanging their hat on this surveillance video?
My understanding of the video is that it's difficult to make out like clear pictures of what's going on, but I do think that it might highlight if there was chaos at the scene, how many people were around, and shed some light, maybe even for the defense, on what was going through Karmelo's mind at the time when this incident occurred. Because really what it boils down to was, did he perceive a threat in that moment that he might be subjected to some serious bodily injury or death? And if there is it brings to mind this case, Raul Valle, where he was surrounded by a group of people. He ends up using a knife and stabs some of the victims there, and one of them dies. And he was acquitted of these charges, the top charges, because of, you know, his perceived fear in that moment, or his perceived threats. And I think this video, as grainy as it may be, may actually shed some light on the commotion and the activity that was taking place, and how that impacted Karmelo's thinking.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And great case comparison with the Raul Valley case that still kind of hangs in the balance because the jury was hung on the lower charges, but on murder, they did acquit him. We are going to take a break. Our panel is staying with us because we're going to look next at what the defense said this morning during their opening statement and some new details that they revealed about their client.
All right, we just learned some new information. He basically said that Karmelo was under the tent because he had a friend there. Perry, go ahead
Right.
and finish. And also, too, I'm leaving my opinion out of it, you guys. I'm just reporting the facts. Go ahead, Perry.
Well, no, I was just to say this. Like, I thought I heard that guy when he came out the courtroom earlier say that it was said that he was meeting that he was in a tent talking to a friend. Now, this is coming from the defense. This is coming from the defense side. The state didn't say that. Of course, if it's not going to be good for them, they won't say it. But the defense can say that. But I wonder if he had a friend in there, is his friend going to testify? You know what I'm saying? Like, both sides going to do whatever, but to defend their client or win their case. I just feel like this.
Go ahead.
With this whole thing, both families deserve justice. Having a fair trial, at least even for the family who lost a child, heard the facts and said, hey, you know what? I don't agree with whatever, but at least I heard it, or maybe it could make more sense. Or on the parents who about ready to lose a child, this shit need to be out in the opening. We don't need to be having people sending transcripts, then they get changed over again. And if you a judge, let's keep it real. If you can't handle something like this, you probably don't need to be a judge. It's causing more conspiracy by you shutting everything down. That's just what I think. Having a camera in the courtroom, a camera is there. Nobody's in there disturbing you. Just a camera. But people, maybe the judge making me think you don't want to see people see how you operate. That's just how I feel about the judge situation. Why you don't want people to know the truth? If you're going to be a fair judge and had a prosecution and the defense put on a good case and you're going to run your courtroom, why are you hiding it? Don't say because it's not about race. If it's not about race, these aren't celebrities neither. So you ain't even having that kind of case. This shit should be publicized, at least a camera, where we can hear and see what you letting go through, what you stopping. Because in my opinion, I'm suspicious of the judge. But go ahead.
Now, yesterday we learned from boots on the ground that what the judge, him not allowing other press in there is kind of backfiring a little bit. So they weren't allowed to talk to any, of course, the jury, but any other reporters that were in there in the courtroom. So this left it where the bloggers had to interview the two groups of people outside. And I will say this, there have been some white people that have gone public saying that, no, because they got to hear the other side. Now they're saying that this was self-defense. So not all white people think he's guilty, but the majority does. And that's where we are right now. That's a lot of stuff we didn't hear yesterday. Number one, I couldn't wait to hear them talk about the tape. People couldn't wait to see the tape. Well, the tape is rendered useless because they said it was very blotchy and you can't see it. So now that makes this a case of he said, she said, and the rumors are that they had a person that wanted to testify and said he's seen the whole thing. He says Karmelo was jumped and they told him no, he never heard from them again. Testimony from the people that were there is going to be very, very important. So what do you think about that, Perry? That someone said that I tried to testify, but they wouldn't let me.
Right. Okay, now, this is the thing. Yes, I heard the video, but like when things come up like this, people can make things up. I don't know what the guy said is true or not, right? But I understand that if he was telling the truth, why they wouldn't want him if they don't want certain things. They want to put their story. Well, look, let me say this. if you had a witness that couldn't help your case, that can derail your case, you're not going to bring them in. But when these kind of things come up, people make up stuff and say it too. So it's hard to say what's real. But
what about the people that are saying, if Austin was your child, would you care what happened? He's gone. What do you say to people who say that?
What I care? No, I think Austin family deserve justice. So do Karmelo Anthony. Look, we all have kids. A lot of people got kids and stuff. Bad things gonna happen, and sometimes, and if your kid do something bad, he got to pay the consequences. But we want it to be a fair trial on either side. We can't go back and erase what happened, but we can't excuse, like, for example, they keep saying, well, how can you bring a poke to a fist fight? Well, I'm almost sure at that trap meet, and I'm not sure, that Texas is an open carry state. Yeah. And I'm sure it was a lot of parents in those stands with weapons. Why would they have to take their weapon? Or whatever, right? Like, people are saying, well, why even have a pocket poke? Well, maybe because in a certain area, he just want to be safe when he left the thing. And in my opinion, if he really went there with the intentions on running up to Metcalf, doing what he did, why was he sitting in the tent just chilling or whatever? Why didn't, instead of Metcalf running over him and his brother or whatever to the tent, why didn't he just go over there and just do it? Is what I'm trying to say.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Okay. If he went there attending on poking Metcalf, why did he have to wait to the altercation? Why couldn't he just go there, pull it out, and just walk up to him and poke him?
So you feel that that's definitely evidence that this was not premeditated.
Right. But then she said in Texas or something like that, that even for that split second, you thought, I'm going to pull this out to defend myself. Then it shows intent. You meant to hurt the person. But in my opinion, too, it's the intent when you go up and start pushing people that your intent is to hurt them. But they ain't giving that same thing back. And if he's outnumbered and you feel like a group of people are around you.
Hold on. Let's see. Let's hear. They're back. Let's hear what they say.
I want to see how the law will be applied to this case when someone is allegedly pushed or touched or assaulted. I just want to see if the law will be applied in the same way it's been applied in other cases.
We are following day one out in McKinney, Texas, in the case against Karmelo Anthony in the track meet murder trial. And this morning, both sides were allowed to give their opening statements in front of the jury, 20 minutes each. And the defense, they began their opening statement with details about their client, about him being a 3.7 GPA student, holding down 2 jobs, that he had been elected football captain of his sophomore team before he was diagnosed with epilepsy and had a seizure. Here are some quotes from our notes inside of that courtroom, because we don't have cameras, but we have Cody Thomas. He's there right now and will be giving us notes throughout the day. This is defense attorney Mike Howard saying self-defense is useless if you wait until it is too late to use it. In that moment, when Austin makes the first physical contact, he reacts in a split, he meaning Karmelo Anthony reacts in a split second of fear and chaos. Well, why didn't he just walk away? There's an answer. After Karmelo defended himself, he ran. He didn't stab twice. He dropped the knife right by the tent on the bleachers. Instead of running to the exit, he goes onto the track and walks right up to a coach and stayed with this coach until that officer arrived. Let's bring back in our panel, see what they think about the defense side of things. Still with us, trial attorney Mario Gallucci, former prosecutor Nicole DeBoard, and criminal defense attorney Joanna Nieves. Nicole, I'm going to start with you on this one, because now we're getting more details, at least from the defense perspective, about what Karmelo Anthony did immediately after the stabbing. How important is that?
I think it's very important. And I think that the prosecution is going to harp on the idea that, well, if you're fleeing, then that we can use that as evidence that you have a consciousness of guilt. What the defense is going to say is exactly what you heard in the opening arguments. He wasn't fleeing at all. He was running to safety. He was running to the safety of an adult. And so he didn't leave the scene. He ran to someone who he trusted to stand with them for protection until law enforcement could arrive. So these are the two different perspectives that I think we're going to continue to hear about, and the different perspectives support the different theories on each side.
Yeah, Joanna, we have the defense starting out their opening statement, really trying to humanize their client, let them know all of his background, and even that diagnosis with epilepsy I found was interesting to bring out in openings. What did you think? What stood out to you?
All of those things, because that's really part of taking away the bluster that was happening with the prosecution's case about, this was his plan all along. He wanted to provoke something and instigate something. And when you start highlighting that this is actually what his background is, he doesn't come across like somebody who's going there with some murderous intent and even formulating that in the moment. His words, his actions all speak to him protecting himself and seeking out safety. And keep in mind, he's 17 years old. I know he's being tried as an adult, but he is a child still who has impulsive, not fully formed and completely immature brain waves that need to be taken into consideration. So, yes, he ran away, and my colleague was saying, he was looking for a place of safety, and I think all of that is relevant, especially his age.
Yeah. 17 at the time, 19 years old inside of that courtroom, now out on bond. So he's able to go in and out of the courtroom each day. Amaro, your thoughts on the fleeing or the running to get help, however it's being characterized differently by either side. I do want to also point out what the police report said about what he said, what Karmelo said as soon as he interacted with the school resource officer. He told them that Austin put his hands on me. He advised other officers that the officer said, I have the suspect or alleged suspect in custody. And Karmelo Anthony said, I'm not alleged. I did it. And he also asked, is the victim going to be okay? What do you think is going to be the impact of his own words as to whether or not he was fleeing or he was someone who was just getting out of the way of the chaos in order to then turn himself in?
So I agree with Nicole completely on this issue. I mean, we see consciousness of guilt in all of these cases, and we just discussed this in the last hour with Ted. But a consciousness of guilt, he did not flee. He went to a person in authority. He went to a coach. He dropped the knife. He didn't leave the scene. He asked how the victim was. He said he did it. He said why he did it. I think he did a very good job, and the defense did a great job, like Joanna just said, in humanizing him. We now know he's a straight-A student. We now know he has no contact whatsoever previously with the criminal justice system. We know he's an athlete. So you're coming into this with a 17-year-old boy who found himself in this predicament, and after it, he could have fled. He could have gotten scared. There was an exit nearby. He chose not to take it. Instead, he went to a person of authority. So this Mr. Anthony made all of the right moves after the incident.
The size of these two individuals, Nicole, also came out in the defense case, or not in their case, but their opening statements. And I want to see if I can pull it up quickly. The defense said that Karmelo Anthony is 5'8", 135 pounds, and that the twins, including the stabbing victim, Austin Metcalf, and his twin brother was there. They are 6'1" and 215 pounds. I keep asking if these details are going to carry any weight. So my question is the same. Is that going to impact the jury? Do they care about the size when one person has a knife?
Right. I mean, I think that's exactly what the defense should be doing, is highlighting why, from the perspective of Karmelo, would this be reasonable to perceive that you were an imminent threat of serious bodily harm or even death. So not only do you have one potential attacker, but you have two, right? They're both approaching him together. One of them, even though they appear to be acting in unison, puts hands on him or threatens to put hands on him, depending on what you believe. And then he reacts as he does. Now, there's no no question that this is an absolute tragedy, probably not the most mature decision. And we have real questions from the prosecution's perspective about whether or not you can instigate this kind of contact when you know you have an available weapon on you from Texas legal analysis standpoint. But the size, to answer your question, is absolutely going to be something these jurors are going to need to consider when they look at Karmelo's perspective, which they must do.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a listen to the defense attorney, Mike Howard. We didn't get to hear him because there are no cameras inside of that courtroom. But before the gag order in this case, he did make a statement that was released. Let's watch.
We understand that this case has sparked strong reactions. Please remember that there are real human beings, kids, on both sides of this case. We ask that everyone do as the law requires and withhold judgment until all the evidence can be heard in court.
Joanna, I don't know how much you watch the comments online, but they have been very visceral, really ugly things are being said when it comes to this case. How do you think the outcome is going to impact things? And I object to the fact that there's no cameras inside because I think people need to see what happens no matter what the outcome is. But what are your thoughts on that and the jury that was picked in this case?
So the curious thing, I'll start with the jury, is that, towards the end, 3 of the remaining African-American jurors were stricken. And one of the things that I commented on yesterday when I spoke about what I would be looking as a defense attorney is somebody who had a caretaking, nurturing responsibility, maybe somebody even like an educator or teacher. And it turns out that the race-neutral reasoning that they gave for striking these jurors was that they were educators, and that's where this whole entire ordeal took place. However, we're starting with a jury that has no kind of diversity in terms of, and relation or relatability to the person that's accused. And in the culture and understanding of like where fear comes from, especially from a racial perspective, is relevant. Karmelo Anthony is a young Black male, and what he experiences in his life and the way that impacts him and how he perceives threats is very different based on his race. And so I think that the lack of diversity on the panel in that regard is just not a good start. But do I think that means that they impaneled an unfair or a partial or biased jury? No, that doesn't necessarily mean that it will translate to that, but I think it's a critical issue at the outset.
Critical issue that's definitely being talked about. Mario Gallucci, we have about 10 seconds. Who's the most important witness that is going to take the stand in this trial?
I would say the defendant in this type of case. I mean, it's his choice to do it, but in a self-defense case, I believe, especially in this case, he would have to take the stand.
We will see what happens. Mario, Joanna, and Nicole, thank you for lending your expertise this hour, helping us break down this case that so many of you are talking about. This helps. This absolutely helps. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. We've got to get to a break, but when we come back, we are going to take you back out there to Texas.
Okay, they just said that it came out in court today that Karmelo Anthony has epilepsy and he's a straight A student. What do you think does that make a difference to you, Perry?
Well, yeah, it makes a difference if somebody tried to portray you as a thug, right?
Mm-hmm.
This backyard gangster type of deal, right? Because look, respect to his family, Metcalf is no longer here, right? Bad things happen. They make him look like this great student, right? That don't cause no problems, but then leave the narrative for everybody else to think that Karmelo is just bad gangster, right? Mm-hmm. Now, so it do make a difference for you to show a different light, because half the time when you walk into the courtroom, being Black, I'm just keep it real with you. If you don't speak on your credentials, they look at you as pretty much a thug. So I think it makes some difference.
But if you were, now I got to do the opposite side. If you were Austin's mother or father, would you care if he was a straight A student? Would you care that he had epilepsy? Your son is gone. What do you say to those
Right.
people?
So if I was their parents, no, it wouldn't matter what he was, right? But his parents aren't the jurors, aren't deciding on the situation,
Right.
because as his parents, they gonna side to and believe whatever they want to in their son's favor. They ain't gonna come up there and say, well, you know what? My kid do pop off sometimes. He do start a lot of shit. He is a bully, and maybe that's why what happened to him. They ain't gonna say that neither. Right?
Right.
If you understand what I'm saying. Like, I'm just saying, for his parents, it's sad to lose somebody. So I don't want to put that on the thing on both sides. Because both of them, if Karmelo go to prison for life, his parents lost their kid too. It was a bad situation that happened. But we just need to know the facts. And what's making me feel, well, this is how I feel about it. Justice is not going to be served. And whether Karmelo win, if you keep this stuff quiet and don't put this stuff out there, on the Metcalf side of it, if Karmelo walk, they gonna feel like justice wasn't served. That they only did it because he was black. They didn't want to do that. That they let the man go, not because he was innocent, because he was black. And the other side gonna be a different kind of way. That's why you need to have some kind of transparency here. Because it's not even just the testimony and stuff they got. We want to know how the whole investigation go. Did you talk to all the witnesses? Who word are you believing? Because if you bring up 5, 6 people that's Metcalf friend, they gonna say what's gonna benefit Metcalf. You understand what I'm saying? But yeah.
I mean, I have to present both sides. I'm in the middle of something right now. So I have to present both sides. It's a touchy case. Very, very touchy. And I feel, and it might get to the point, because I'm leaving my feelings out of this, that no matter what happens, when a decision is made, all chaos might break out. I mean, we've been around a long time. We've seen what happened in the Rodney King trial. We saw what happened with, a lot of trials. Is there any way that you can peacefully, what's the word I'm looking for? Is there any way that this trial can end peacefully with both sides being so intense and firm in their feelings and decisions? Because it's very, very, very touchy.
Well, I would say this. This is how I feel about it being behind closed doors. But if I heard the case and the evidence was put out there and I could see it and hear it, I ain't taking somebody else's third word for it and stuff like that, that he was guilty, then I can live with it. I mean, crimes happen every day by each race. Shit. I mean, if you do the time, if you do the crime, do the time. But it's setting up to me when you have these closed door meetings and basically when you ain't allowing people into a damn public courtroom, that's what you're doing. Don't hide it under, well, he's protecting minors. It's things about it. They can disguise their voice. They can swear them in somewhere in a back room and just have them on a television. I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling you the South is just this way. And these people who think, well, that's fine. He just protected minors. In South Carolina, we just had a problem with the 14-year-old guy with a store owner chased him out the store for a bottle of water. If he took it, and even if he did, a bottle of water, chased him 100 yards, whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's free from it.
Yeah.
Now, where was that store owner feeling threatened by? So I'm just saying, like, and when you look at threats, you got both of these twin brothers, both of them over 200 pounds. And probably a group of them, Metcalf himself would have felt threatened if he was surrounded by 4 or 5 big black guys. I'm just saying that shit happened. I mean, but I think some shit gonna go down in this case, and they gonna red roll. Because really at this point, say, without us hearing the evidence and the actual proof, a lot of people gonna feel a certain way either way. So this judge ain't doing no favors. They'll be marching if Karmelo walk free. They'll be marching down there in Texas. You know what I'm saying? Doing whatever. But if they hear it and know why he walked free, it just makes it easy to accept. I mean, that's what I think.
The aftermath. Oof. A lot of Black people feel that this is a setup. They're angry from day one because how are you going to put them in front of a group of white people? Asians don't understand what it's like to be Black. The Middle Easterns don't understand what it's like to be Black. Why are there no Black people on the jury? So it's not starting good. And do you think that the judge senses that? And that's why he's doing the things that he's doing that I've never heard of before, like having the record sealed while the trial is live. I can't even go back as a journalist and pull here we go, we're back.
Okay.
Back to Court TV Live. I'm Julia Janae. Thank you for following along with us as we are out in the state of Texas. The big question is whether 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony murdered his fellow student, Austin Metcalf, or was it self-defense? Was it a justifiable homicide? That testimony is going on right now in Karmelo Anthony's murder trial in McKinney. Cameras are not allowed inside of this courtroom per the judge's order, but Court TV, we are on the ground and happening now inside of that courtroom. Cody Thomas just let us know through the notes, because he is there inside, that they are resuming the direct examination of that first witness that was called by the state, that forensic video analyst who testified to multiple wide-angled surveillance videos that the prosecution admitted were not crystal clear. Cody told us it's very grainy. He's having a very difficult time making out any faces, but he did see the father of the stabbing victim holding his head in his hands as that is playing, because even though it's difficult to see, everyone in that courtroom knows what is happening. The stabbing is happening, the death of Austin Metcalf. Now, something else Cody is saying is that they're talking about inside the courtroom enhancing the original videos that were provided with magnifying and spotlighting pertinent parts of the video. And he said they just rolled in a 4K TV to be compatible with the zoom enhancements, angled so the gallery can't see anything because it's a priority for the jury to see it. But of course, that is the priority inside of the courtroom for the jury to see it. So we may not know from the journalists who are there inside the courtroom how this enhanced video looks, but all very interesting, and it's coming, and we will keep you posted on what new happens inside of that courtroom. We've been talking about this case and why it's gotten so much attention. There's no escaping how polarizing it is, especially on social media. The families of both Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony, the defendant, they've spoken out about the emotional toll of this case. Take a listen.
I tried to whip around as fast as I could, but I didn't see the stab. But then I looked at my brother, and I'm not going to talk about the rest. So just that's just what I saw. And I tried to help him.
He was the most amazing kid. Oh, so smart. He had college football guys looking at him to play in college. Just because the kid was mad, my son is not here anymore, and I don't understand it.
In wake of this tragic incident, our family has been under attack. Whatever you think what happened between Karmelo and the Metcalf boys, my 3 younger children, my husband, and I didn't do anything to deserve to be threatened, harassed, and lied about.
Well, we understand that courthouse is packed with spectators. There was a long line outside of the courthouse, people wanting to know what happens in this case, especially one where we don't have cameras, so people aren't able to live stream it like they often are. To talk about what we are hearing so far, what led up to this case, and what we can anticipate, let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor and the host of the Tangent True Crime podcast, Al Wunsch III is with us. Al, it's good to see you. This case is one that is going to be difficult for everyone involved. I don't envy any party in this case. What are your overall thoughts on what is going to be necessary for either side to get their case across to this jury?
Well, first of all, you started from the standpoint that the passion of sports in Texas is high. It's huge. It's unbelievable. I mean, my former high school, Don Bosco, played Texas, first New Jersey school to play in Texas, and could not believe the way that the Friday night lights and all that kind of stuff is just incredible. So the passion that people have for sports and for their athletes is huge. Now, you take a situation where, an individual comes into an area where he's not supposed to be at this track meet, and then an altercation occurs. It seems to me that is certainly possible because everyone's adrenaline is high and everything else. And there's, as I said, a passion for your team, for your teammates, and also, not necessarily for your adversaries. But the part that blows my mind is, like, who brings a knife to a track meet? I mean, I played football in high school. At a very big football high school. I played in college. I don't ever remember bringing a weapon to any one of my athletic events, and and I played in inner city games against Patterson and Passaic and East Side in New Jersey. Tough inner city schools. I don't remember them bringing any weapons to any of these games. So it's going to be interesting because this trial will have to put the defendant on the stand. He's going to have to take the stand, and he's going to have to explain why he did where he went, why he felt as uncomfortable as he did. But the question I have is, why do you have a knife?
You're highlighting something that the prosecution absolutely stated in their opening statement. They wanted to get it out. I'll stand by, though. We have another guest that is also joining us remotely from outside of that courthouse. We have civil rights attorney and activist Lee Merritt with us. Lee, thanks so much for joining us. I know you were at that courthouse earlier today. I saw you posting on social media about the picking of the jury and the reaction to that. So tell me what you were able to observe when you were there at the courthouse.
Well, the community is certainly out and interested. This happened not too far from where I live. And since then, the community has been on pins and needles. Everyone who is raising children in the area, as your other speaker pointed out, this is a sports, community, high school, sports, track, football. That's something that is going to be at the heart of this area. And what I saw this morning was a very diverse community who's invested in the outcome, and a courtroom that doesn't seem to be prepared to deal with that kind of attention.
And Lee, I'm going to follow up with a question about, actually a question I think we talked about 5 years ago when we would have been down in Brunswick, Georgia, the Ahmaud Arbery trial, killing of Ahmaud Arbery trial, where there was a question about the jury and the makeup of the jury. And there was only one African-American on that jury. And it's similar questions that are here when, though there are people of color on this jury that has been picked, there are no African-Americans.
That's right. And as I pointed out, this is a community that I live in. It's a community that is conservative, that's politically leans Republican. But this is a diverse community. The group of jurors who first appeared were Black, brown, white, and represented the cross sections in this community. It's unfortunate that every qualified Black juror was struck by the prosecution. And in this case, I know the prosecutor, Bill Werski, said race had nothing to do with it, but he did receive Batson challenges. Those are challenges from the defense saying you have to explain why these Black jurors were taken out. We did see something similar happen in Ahmaud Arbery's case, in the case of the McMichaels for the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. And ultimately, a nearly all-white jury in that case came to what I believe to be the right conclusion and convicted those men of that heinous crime. And I do believe even an all-white jury can get it right here as well.
Lee, I want to ask you about something that Al mentioned. Al is staying with us all hour, so I want to get as many questions as I can to you. I know you have to go back to following this case out there in McKinney, Texas. But the question of the knife being at a school, that is something that I would imagine outrages a community. We see it when there are school shootings. Why is there a weapon on the campus? Because we know children don't have the capacity to handle guns. This is a knife, a little bit different in terms of whether or not he would have been in trouble for having it in a different place. How does that play into it? What are the rules there at that school, if you know?
That was something certainly during the opening that the entire community was listening for, was because there was a rumor that it wasn't a knife, that it was a track spike. But the prosecution leaned in to the idea, to the argument that there was a knife that was used in this incident. And it is not a fact that trends in support of the self-defense claim. At events like this, track meets, students bring a great deal of equipment. They bring spikes, they bring ropes, they hang tents. Sometimes the tents can use certain kind of pocket knives. I don't know what kind of knife was used here, but actually at a track meet, having tools for setting up the tent, having tools for preparing yourself for whatever event you're participating in is not out of the ordinary. But a knife is very different than a spike track. So the fact that the evidence is coming in as it was, in fact, a knife does not bode well for the defense.
I don't know if you were able to see the surveillance video before that. I know the general public was not able to see the surveillance video. Did anything about that surveillance video played in court today surprise you? And anything that has come out so far with opening statements and the first witness on the stand? Is it anything, especially in a case like this one where we had a gag order and there seemed to be such a crackdown on any information leaking out prior to trial?
Yeah, no, I didn't have a chance to see that evidence prior to trial. And then unfortunately, I actually had to leave court midway today. And so I haven't seen all the evidence come in. I think that the state has done a good job of actually preserving the evidence. It is best when all of the evidence is not on the internet, and the jury will have the opportunity to see it first in the courtroom, so it doesn't become tainted. But as that evidence comes in, then the story becomes even more clear. We've heard a bunch of different stories about what may have happened, but there is video, and that's something that we weren't even sure existed until they showed it in open court today.
Civil rights attorney Lee Merritt, we certainly appreciate you being here. We are going to be getting our break, but thank you for sharing all of those details, and I hope you have a safe rest of the day. When we come back, we're going to keep following this case. We've got Al Wunsch still with us, and we're going to be going over not only what we've seen so far in this case, but again, we have Cody Thomas there on the ground. He's going to be giving us those notes, letting us know what is happening next. We understand that TV has been rolled into the courtroom so that these jurors can see that surveillance video even better.
All right. So they have a clearer version of video that they're only going to show the jury, right, and not the people in the stands.
If they saying, yeah, it don't make sense neither, because they saying like this. And I understand that the jury needs to see it. But in this situation, you only invited a few people in. You didn't put no blacks on the damn jury. Everybody needs to see it in the courtroom, because you got a 4K. If you got a fuzzy damn video, they making it seem like now you can definitely see it clear. I mean, if you got a bad photo or video, it's gonna be bad on 4K. But they damn sure need to show that the people in the courtroom. I mean, that's what I think.
Now, a lot of you are coming in now. Listen, I'm letting people say what they want to say. I don't have any mods in the chat. I mean, I'll talk to you later, Leah, if you want to. You can say whatever, and you guys can speak to each other, but we're not going to use racial slurs in the chat. That's where it stops. No racial slurs, but if you feel how you feel, speak your piece. That's what this is for. Speak your piece. No racial slurs. Now it's going to another level. But if you think he's innocent, say he's innocent. If you think he's guilty, say he's guilty. Now, we got the civil rights leaders there now. This feels like if they find him guilty, feels like all hell's going to break loose. What do you think, Perry? That's what it feels like. I don't know for sure.
You know what? Under these circumstances, right? And then when you say, "Oh, hell break loose," I think some small things that happen. But black people know we can't do but so much. If that happened, you might could just go, I don't know, do a little damage to a store or something like that. But it's not going to be the same if they let him walk and then they start marching, doing stuff. The same shit ain't going to happen to them. the white people.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that either side gonna be upset if we're not being shown all the facts and stuff, right? But it don't really look good because they trying everything because they making this big thing. Let's keep it real. Now, this ain't 1970 where, oh, I just can't believe it. He had a pocket knife at a track meet. Oh my God. Well, can you imagine? Kids take more to school in class, biology, math, English, library, football practice. They take more shit than a pocket knife. You saying, well, why have that? It could be to cut the rope, or it could be for protection, walking home, leaving the track meet. It could be anything. But you got to show me that he went there with the intentions. When Metcalf them ran their ass over there, he didn't already have it out charging them, poking. So they making a big thing out of it. And they talking about, oh, why would he have a pocket knife? And maybe this will come up because we're not getting the facts in the court. I'm just going off how I feel, right? Now, they ain't talking about how those two twins bullied the neighborhood if that happened. I'm just under the belief they did, right? That's why I need to hear the facts. But we ain't gonna blow this shit. Oh, I can't believe the black guy had a pocket knife. Hell, if you went to that same track meet and went out there in that parking lot and seen those damn pickup trucks, they probably had rifles across the back window. So let's not act like this little 6-inch pocket knife or whatever it is that disgusting. But go ahead, Sherelle.
Now, because I'm committed to fair and balanced reporting, I'm not putting my personal feelings in here, and I will represent the other side, both sides, okay? Would it make a difference to you, Perry, if Austin was your son? Would you feel that I don't give a damn how many A's he got in school, my son is gone? What do you say to those people?
Well, I mean, I would have to be honest and say, hey, I don't care what my son did. He didn't deserve to be unalived. I could be mad at that part. But I could also look at it and say, if my kid assaulted you and this was his outcome, I'd be so upset with damn. You know what? But don't recognize your son is gone, but don't recognize his part into it. And at the end of the day, did Anthony shank him? I say shank him before he laid hands on him. And I ask you, are you disappointed? I know I'm sorry for your loss or whatever, but are you disappointed that your kid went up and started laying hands on somebody? Because if I was Karmelo Anthony as his parent, I wouldn't want nobody just walking up putting hands on my kid neither. I mean, but shit happens when you got boys, things happen, but this is the bad situation that happened out of it. Whether it's self-defense now or whatever, I don't know, because I need to hear all the facts, to be honest with you.
One thing about living in the United States, and this is just an honest fact, because I'm only talking facts here. Racism runs very, very deep. We all know that children aren't born with hatred in their heart, but if you get them at a young enough age, it will never leave them. It will never leave them. Will this country ever get healed of racism?
No.
And some Black people feel like not only will it never be healed, but because of the times that we're in right now, it's gotten worse. There are older people in my chat saying this reminds them of the 60s. Is that true? Once it's in you, it's not going to leave you. Do you believe that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very slim that it's going to leave you unless you see something that changed your opinion. But if you feel that way, you ain't going to be around other races to realize there's no
back on. Let's hear. Let's hear.
Self-defense is not a crime. Self-defense is not a crime. Self-defense is not a crime. Self-defense is not a
That is a look outside of the courthouse this week in the case against Karmelo Anthony, where emotions have been running high on both sides of the aisle inside of that courtroom. We've been following today those notes that have been coming out of Collin County, where Karmelo Anthony is on trial. He's out on bond. This is in the murder charge against him for the death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. Karmelo Anthony, also 17, has stated that this was self-defense, and that is what his defense attorney is arguing in front of the jury. We heard all of that play out today in those opening statements. There are no cameras inside of this courtroom. It is packed. There are spectators there inside. There are journalists inside. And most importantly, our own Cody Thomas is inside. And he's able to give us the information so that we can share that with you. We've let you know throughout the last hour that there was this state forensic witness on the stand who was showing a video, that really the only surveillance video of this shooting, or this stabbing rather. The shooting of the video is what they are playing. And we know that they brought in a TV to be more compatible with the zoom enhancements. They angled it really so that the jury could see it more so, because Cody has explained that this video is very grainy, that you really can't make out the faces of any of the students who are underneath this tent from Memorial High. That's where Austin Metcalf went to school. And we also understand, the latest note we've gotten from Cody is that from the minimal angle that he can see where he is seated, which is behind the Metcalf family, he said the video generally looks the same as it did before lunch, where it was very grainy, except now the important parties are highlighted as they move, meaning Karmelo Anthony as he moves and Austin Metcalf as he moves. So important evidence, but how effective is it if it's that grainy? Let's bring back in Al Wunsch, the third criminal defense attorney and podcast host of the Tangent podcast. Al, what do you think about the prosecution starting their case this way? In their opening statements, they told this jury, you will see video of this incident, that it's going to help you, that we're walking you through what happened that day. If it's this grainy, do you think that is problematic for how they are beginning their case?
No, because I think that, you know, you play the game with the cards you're dealt with. I mean, obviously they would love to have something that was in, you know, Technicolor and beautifully screened and everything else, but you don't have that. So you make do with what you have. And you put that out first, because I generally, when I was a prosecutor, wanted the warts out before I started getting into the good parts of the case. So this way here, no one was saying, well, wait a minute, you know, he was hiding that from us. So show the video that's grainy, show the video with regards to the enhancement that they've done. And it goes to the, you know, the jury's going to put the weight on it that they want to put on it. The bottom line is that, you know, it's going to demonstrate how difficult this self-defense aspect of the case is going to be to prove by the defense. That they can throw that out there, but it's a tent. It's a tent that, you know, unfortunately, Karmelo should not have been in. By going in, it was a provocative act on his part. He knew, based on the fact that these guys were, you know, rivals, athletic rivals and everything else, that when someone from a school you're playing goes into your tent or goes in and sits there, okay, it's a dare. It's a provocative situation. As I said before, I mean, you know, I played football in college. I played football in high school. And in high school, it was a lot more passion involved. And, you know, so if somebody from the rival school, Bergen Catholic, stepped into my tent where I was sitting there with the rest of my players, we're going to say something. And you go in there knowing you're provoking a situation. So to claim self-defense is not going to make any sense. Plus the fact he could have gotten out of the tent in no time. It's not like he's cornered in a area in an alleyway where there was nowhere for him to go except straight ahead and after this kid that's in front of him.
Duty to retreat might play a big role here, for sure. I want to bring up something that you just mentioned, because Cody just put in the notes that he's sending out to us that the witness on the stand, the forensic examiner, is specifying where the two individuals are. So these are witnesses, eyewitnesses who were there. They're pointing at Karmelo Anthony as he runs away from the tent following the stabbing. So even though the stabbing itself it seems very unclear and it's hard to see in that video, what seems to be the most clear is him leaving. his defense team says that he left and went to a coach because he wanted to essentially turn himself in, or said, I'm the one who did it. It's not alleged, is what he told the officer afterward. But that running away is going to be big here.
Well, the running away is also essential because it means he could have gotten away. It means he didn't have to stay there. I mean, if his argument is that I was in danger because there was all these guys there and they were going to do something to me, he's able to get out and he's able to run from the scene. So why couldn't he have run 5 minutes earlier if he was that scared? Why was he in there in the first place? That's another question. So, I mean, everything here is stemming from the fact that, look, I hate this case because I hate seeing two young people's lives destroyed the way this has happened. Okay, but for them to be yelling self-defense, I find that to be a real problem. And, you know, I guess if you keep saying something many, many times, then maybe you think someone's going to believe it. But it's not self-defense in this case. This case has no self-defense aspect. He walks in with a knife in an area where he knew he was going to provoke a response, okay? And then it happens. He doesn't get up and leave. He doesn't run out before the situation goes any further, and he takes the life of a 17-year-old young man with a promising future.
I'm going to read for you something that we heard in the opening statement for the prosecution. And it goes along with what you said, that this is how the prosecution ended in front of the jury. They said, you simply cannot provoke someone, and when they touch you, you take their life. This case is about plain murder, simple and senseless. Find this man guilty of first-degree murder. That question of what Karmelo Anthony said, where he said, touch me and see what happens, according to a witness who was at the scene and what they told the officers immediately after. Or even what the defense says, where they said that he only said, if you don't touch me, we'll be cool. How much do these words matter, Al? If you tell someone, don't go there, and they do, and the response is that, does that get us anywhere close to self-defense?
Well, let's be realistic, okay? He's walking in there for a reason. He's walking in there for a reason. The reason is to provoke a response.
Now, today, the defense said, just to let our viewers know, because they didn't get to watch it, so I want to make sure they know, he says he was there to be around friends. He was there because he saw some people who were friends with his girlfriend, and he was sitting there chatting and talking. That was surprising to me, Al. I had not heard that. I didn't see it in the police report. It seemed like from the police report, he just sat down and all of this happened. But the defense shared that he actually was there for some time talking to his friends when he was then approached by the Metcalf twins. Does that change anything for you?
Well, that is somewhat significant, but I don't know where that came from, because I also have been studying this and I have not seen anything that said that before. I mean, that makes sort of a nice little fitting aspect of it. But then you're saying to yourself, okay, so he went in there to have a chat in enemy territory, but he brought a knife. If he's in there for the purposes of being social and hanging out with the friends of his girlfriend, why does he get a knife? And the whole aspect of it doesn't make any sense to me, that would be the reason why he would walk in there. You understand that there are, lines of demarcation when you're in an athletic event. You don't trespass into the other side's lines. Okay, you let that go. At the end of the game, you shake hands and you move on. That's fine. But when you're in the middle of a competition, there is the home and then there's the away team. And they stay in their camps. They don't go, they don't intermingle, they don't hang out, because that's not the way it's done, especially in a state like Texas that takes this so strongly, that loves their athletes, that loves their sports, that loves their competition. There is an adrenaline going on for these guys in any type of competition. When the game is done, you leave it on the field.
Al, I had not thought about this as a sports rivalry being at the heart of this case, but you are highlighting something that could be on the minds of these jurors. I do want to let our viewers know the latest we've gotten from Cody inside of that courtroom is that the jurors are now seeing spotlighted portions of that video of police now escorting Karmelo out of the stadium, which would certainly be a moment for them to see. Al, stand by. We've got to get to our break. This has been a great conversation. We are trying to help our viewers understand what's happening inside of this cameraless trial, and
I am committed to reporting fair and balanced and really sticking to the facts, because this is already emotionally charged and because of my business, and I'll go into that later. But he really had to slow down when it was brought to his attention. Why was he in the tent? Because he had friends in the tent.
Right.
And that could be a hole in the state's testimony. If you focus in on why was he there? Why was he there? He was there to pick a fight. Or you have witnesses that testify, we're his friends. He came over to us. This is going to be very important testimony, the friends that can back why he was there. It kind of puts holes into the state's argument. You'll have to change it up. There was another thing that he said that was a shock. I didn't write it down, but Perry, what are your thoughts about the friend's testimony? If the friends come out and testify that this is our friend and he was there and we were all talking to him. Oh, and also too, the state has failed to bring up, and maybe they will bring it up, we don't know, they haven't brought it up yet, is that Austin either grabbed or pushed him first. That's in the police report. How will they, okay, it looks like it's over. How will they explain that?
Well, no, I like eventually, like this trial just starting, like this hater that just got off of it, that attorney or whatever he was, he was hell bent on finding a reason to find Metcalf, Anthony guilty, and he was done. Well, he met some friends there. I've been covering this case, and but I've been an athlete. I played high school. Nobody cared about your little athlete, the sports you could have played. You wasn't good at it, sir. Now you sitting there hating. He's hating. Well, come up. Well, it's a rivalry. People don't do that. Yes, people do. When all the whole district meet up together, you met other friends. And you'll go ahead and hang out. I ran track, they'll let you talk to other teams. But then he'll say, well, when he don't have the answer, but why did he bring the poke? Why did Austin put his damn hands on him? You ain't answering that damn question. And like I said, I don't know what happened until all these facts coming out. But at this point, Anthony saying self-defense. You got to prove to me it wasn't self-defense. You got the videotape. You got the witnesses. Let's go forward. But these people are hell bent on finding him guilty before this whole trial go out, all the way through. And that's how shit gets started. He's up there. Well, he's sitting there burning the knife up. You shouldn't be speaking if you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Is people going to take what you say and run with it?
It's a heavy case. It's a heavy case. And I hate that it is turned racial, and it has. I dropped the link for anybody who wants to come up and add anything to it. In the meantime, I'm just going to pull a couple comments, and then we're out of here. I'm going to go and make my long form video and get to the facts. Okay, it says, bullies get caught. I didn't hear anything about Metcalf's brother being good people. Well, they just testified today that he went over there. He was in the tent, the brother, Hunter, when everything happened. But, to be fair, you got to give Hunter some room. That's his brother. And so, he's going to look at it different. Hi, Tiffany. Sound off.
Hey, Sherelle. Hey, Perry.
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
I believe that I'm not going to go with one side is better than the other or anything like that. However, if those boys never, if they never approach him, because let's just face it, don't nobody own the tent. It's school property at this point. And so wherever he's at, that's just where he's at. If they never approached him, none of this wouldn't have happened. And as far as him carrying a knife, you don't know what was going on with him when he was about to leave. He could have been walking home. These days people carry all kinds of weapons with them, going home, going to the store, going to the mailbox. They mostly okay.
Let me ask you this. If you were the judge, what do you do with this really hostile situation? Do you think he did the right thing by not allowing Karens in the room?
I think that was a big mistake because now you don't know what's going on backstage. It's already bad enough there's no black jurors at all. And just because there's a different I can't get the word out, but just because it's Asian people and there's other people on there doesn't mean that it's going to be a fair trial. I really don't think this is going to be a fair trial for him.
I'm asking you pushback questions because we have to represent both sides. If Austin was your child, would you care that Karmelo was a straight A student with epilepsy?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, any mother losing a child, that's going to affect any mother. That's just facts. Yes, I would be highly upset. I don't care if who did what with what, but my child is gone at this point. But still have to step back and look at all the facts. Like if my child approached him and caused this, then I have to face facts as well as a parent. Even still, it doesn't nothing compared to losing a child. So I will feel, a little hurt. Well, not a little hurt, a lot of hurt by, the whole situation of what's going on.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
I agree too. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
Oh no. I mean, I just think that guy that was just on, he's literally just one-sided. He's not looking at anything else, going on with this case. Like, why is he there? Why is he carrying the knife? Why? Oh, I didn't hear that. Well, maybe you need to do a little bit more research because he's talking like they are NFL and NBA sports. This is high school. If I see my friends and they go to another school, I'm gonna go say hey to them,
Also, were you aware that the track meet that they were having was not at the school? It was at some park that's close to the school.
No.
I just thought that's a fact. And I'm just trying to keep the facts out there. So it's public property. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That just makes it even worse that it's public property and that somebody can come and tell you where you should be and where you shouldn't be. Like it's supposed to be a free country. And if the guy seen, some friends over there and he went to go say, hey, I don't think that he should have been approached, period.
Right.
So you agree the friend's testimony can make or break this case?
I think that if he needs somebody that was actually there and they allow them to speak, that's the only thing that's going to, basically open this case up to for fairness for both sides as well. They need somebody for Anthony's side. They need somebody for the other side to make fairness and then let the jury just figure it out at that point.
Yeah. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate your call.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
All right.
Perry, did you want to say something?
Oh, I was going to say, look, the bottom line is this. When you talk about the parents, look, I'll be still mad, even if my son was to went and jumped on it, Karmelo. It's just, and I know my kid was in the wrong. I'm still mad because my kid lost his life. But it's almost the same. If our son was to go and jump on a cop, and then after the fact, he's unalive. We still sad that he's unalive, but we realize, damn, son, why did you go and do that? See, and I think if Austin would have never put hands on Karmelo, he would have kept talking to his friends and moved about his business.
Thank you, Perry. Mr. Moore, sound off.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me okay, first of all?
Yes,
very
good.
Awesome. Yeah, so I have this story is like super sad for a multitude of reasons. It's going to be a hell of a job. The defense has a hell of a task to try to prove that Mr. Anthony truly feared for his life, and that fear was reasonable enough for him to pick up a knife and stick it through the chest of the young man that he killed at the track meet, because that's the facts of the matter. The fact of the matter is that he killed a man. He killed a man, right? Now, the question for me is not whether or not Mr. Anthony had the right to be under the tent. Obviously, he had the right to be where he was. And it obviously was not Mr. Metcalf's job to try to forcibly remove Karmelo from anywhere. That's not his job. He's not security. There are school police officers. There are security guards. It's not his job to do what he did at all. Right? And I understand that. But to me, as a man, see, if Karmelo, and I hate to say, like, it's not that I hate to say this, just we're talking about it, so I have to be realistic. If Karmelo was my son and he explained to me what I know the facts of the case to be, as a father, you understand, like, you want to understand it, and that's your son. You want to understand it. You want to, you know, kind of side with him, right? But as a man, right, just the reality, it's like, nah, son, I understand you pulling the knife. If you was afraid, I understand you pulling the knife, right? Back up, right? Why are you, like, get away from me? I understand you pulling the knife, but why did you put it through his chest? Explain that to me, right? Now, that's a painful question for anybody to ask. Like, if this was my son, I wouldn't even want to ask that question. But if we're going to judge it, because this is the position we in now, is judging it. And you have to explain to me, why did you put it through his chest? Did he ball his fist at you? Did he punch you? Did he say he was going to do something? You have to explain that to me. And from the facts that I know right now, it don't look good for Karmelo from a legal perspective to beat this case. Now, if his defense can beat it, in my opinion, that's a great job on them. But it's going to be an uphill climb.
So we're going to see. We definitely going to see. Because, look, the whole thing, and I understand what you're saying. But when you go to these certain rules, if you're feeling threatened, because from what I heard, and I'll make sure all this come back up in court, but if he was attacked, and people can say, well, he just put hands on, if he was approached by Metcalf in any kind of way that feel threatened, do he have the right to protect himself?
Yes. I believe the answer is yes, but there's a difference between protecting yourself and pulling a knife and putting it through a man's chest.
Right.
There's a difference.
Now, okay, but things happen. Like, now, do they have to prove that that was his intentions on actually unaliving this man, or was he just trying to get out of there?
Man, that's a great question. See, man, and this is the problem with Karmelo's case, because you just asked the key question, was his intent. Nobody knows what his intent was, but what they're going to go by is what he said. They're going to go based on the things that he told the police. And he told the police, the witnesses have already said what that young man said. So we know when he go to court, the prosecution is going to use his words against him to try to prove that to mean intent. Now, I see, this is the thing, right? This is why I say, like, damn, like, if somebody gonna do that, if a person feel the need to really defend themselves to the extreme, they got to watch what they say. That's why, like I've always said, with great power come great responsibility. If you carry any type of item on you that can take a man's life, you have to be extremely careful in how you utilize that power, how you yield that power, right? It would have been better for Karmelo to have said nothing and just knife him, in my opinion, as opposed to the things that they have already documented him saying. And so, because again, it's going to be used against him, as they say, it's going to be everything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. And this is exactly what's about to happen. I
get what you're saying. You saying, young men, be smart. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to throw away your life. I get that. Perry's saying, when you are faced in a situation like this, because he didn't plan on this happening, it's a reaction. But both of y'all are right. But I have to go with Mr. Moore.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, because what he's saying,
they're going to fight. Yeah.
No, and I agree with him. Right. But what I'm just saying, because he's saying, and he agreed with me, I'm saying that's the hard part to say. you feared for your life, and this what happened. That was not my intentions.
That might be the best. That might be the best thing that the defense can do, is try to ensure that the jury cannot be swayed by Karmelo's words, that those words that he said establishes intent. They have to try to portray those words to mean get away from me, right? Instead of, do this again and see what I do. Like, okay, what he should have said was get away from me, right? He should have said something, maybe, I don't know, because they're going to use it against him. So they're going to have to try to prove that what he said means something other than what the prosecution is going to try to say, because, it's all perception.
I got a long line. I agree with you. I also wanted to add, we don't know what the kids are going to testify to, because it could change things that we don't know.
I just want to say one last thing. I just want to say one last thing, if I may.
Yeah.
This is a situation where we have to really look at ourselves and say, how do we handle conflict? Because this is what this is all about. Conflict resolution, the ability to communicate and de-escalate situations, right? And so are we empowering our children with the tools to de-escalate situations? Just because somebody approaches you, even with disrespect, because we've all known, when I was 17 years old, I didn't tolerate no disrespect either. But you see, man, there has to be teaching. And when you raise your child, when you raise your young men and women to understand in this world, you're going to face conflict. It's going to be about how you deal with this situation. Yes, you're not supposed to let nobody disrespect you. But if you're going to roll them dice, first of all, you don't have to roll the dice. There's always a way out of the situation, right? In most cases, you don't have to do that. Now, again, can you stand your ground? Yes. But if you're going to stand your ground, you better know the law or be able to get out of there such that you don't get caught. Because if you're going to stand your ground, you rolling the dice. And so therefore you're going to have to pay, you're going to deal with the consequences. So, I mean, I do wish the young man the best and everything, it sucks. It's just a terrible situation, but thank you for allowing me on your show. And
thank you, Mr. Moore. Don't be a stranger. Take care. QT sound off. QT.
Hi, Sherelle. Hey, Perry.
Hey.
Hi.
I had a question in the back for Perry to ask Mr. Moore, but he's gone now because I really want to know if it changed his mind, if that provoking part is out of the equation, because that's what's taking the self-defense off the table, is all of this Karmelo said. First of all, we're just going with the narrative. We don't know, in fact, that he said, touch me and watch what will happen. Also, do you guys remember when this first happened? I don't know. I think it was the police that had said to the other students who may have had these things on the cell phones that, one, they better not post anything, and then they were to come in so that they could view the video. Do you guys remember that part of the story?
No.
Yeah. Oh. That happened. Okay. So now I'm wondering, how many videos does the jury get to see? Okay. Because there are multiple videos. It's not just the surveillance. And then and then Nika's at the court. Okay. She saw the video today. He's sitting on the edge of the canopy. And I hate that people keep saying tent, because your mind goes to everything's closed in. It's a canopy. So you know how those work. It's just the top. And he was sitting on the very edge. And it was indeed raining, because people are starting to, spread that lie.
Well, hold on. Let me clear up what you're saying. You're saying blogger Neek at Night, shout out to Neek at Night, saw a video, a clear video.
The video that they're talking about, they want to clear up, is the video that she saw. Okay. So basically, she explained you could tell who's who. Okay. And she's saying it's like I think she said it all happened maybe within 4 minutes. And then, you could see him sitting on the edge and it was raining. Now, what's his name? I had just put it in your chat too. Stock Market Steve, he's there as well. He's another YouTuber. Now,
Okay.
he's still trying to confirm what I'm about to tell you guys. A lot of people are talking about it in the chat that it was like 5 people or more. He was standing in line this morning. There was a teacher there that taught Karmelo, and it was another gentleman, I think he said. And they both saw the video, not the one Nick is talking about, but he said he was surrounded. He got pushed down and hit the back of his head. This is the story he got. He's still trying to confirm this. So now, what if that is really the case? I keep going back to my brain like no self-defense, no self-defense, just based on what was supposedly said. I think that's what's tripping everybody up. You know what I mean? Because in Texas, they do have that law. You provoke the situation, even if he got hit first, you provoke it by those words that they're saying he said, self-defense is out the window.
Well, according for you, what do you feel was when it became provoked? Who do you think, when do you think it became, what do you think the provoking was? Let me put it that way.
Okay, well, for me, common sense, just regular person thinking would be the provocation is whichever twin, what's his name? How you say Metcalf or whatever, when he put hands on Karmelo. I mean, I would even take it a step further when he said, get out of the tent. Because right, if we're gonna go word for word, right? If how can we say that him saying get out the tent is not provoking? And but you could say Karmelo saying don't touch me, watch what happens.
Right.
Right? Is that fair?
Right.
Yeah, so that's just me. But the Texas law states by Karmelo saying touch me, watch what happens. He provoked, thereby taking away self-defense.
Because
that
they're saying there's a
blows me,
difference between get out and do something physically to me, and you're gonna, you're gonna get it in so many. Yeah, okay,
Right.
okay. So you're pretty much saying that unless we hear other testimony, what we heard today, legally they have to find Karmelo guilty, is what you're pretty much saying, right?
Yeah, that's what. And guess what? Oh, this is another good part. There was a lady there when they were doing the jury pool, right? Because I know people were talking about that. She said the clear people, all of those that was coming through, because they can't see the jurors when they were getting questioned by the judge. They had a questionnaire, so it was just only like I guess a speaker, okay? And she said the clear people was like, nope, not doing it. There's no way that I could convict this young man for one mistake. She said another one was saying, nope, I could never give this young person life. So she said she felt a little more comfortable even not having, us on the jury.
Well,
because
that
she
goes
said
to what
they
I was
stand it.
saying, is that on Monday there were some white people coming forward saying Karmelo was provoked. Carmelo's not guilty. So it's we got a couple more days. We have to hear some more testimony.
Right.
This could go a way that nobody suspects. We don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but they got a lot of security and everything for the just in case. But I agree with you all too. It should be televised. And so right now I'm following 3 people who are actually there and sitting so that I don't get caught up in the legacy media. I like you guys because you play the stuff, but and you use your common sense and you go back and forth with it. But that weirdo that was on that panel with the channel. Yeah, it was just like you're not supposed to be there. Like, it's raining. And even when she came back and said, hey, this is the situation, he didn't want to hear it. And so my prayer for this whole case is that we don't have knuckleheads like that who refuse to accept the facts of the case wherever it takes us.
No.
Well, thank you for calling in. You come back with your information and all your, stuff you gather.
Hey, if I get it, you guys got it. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Thank you so much. That was powerful. Sound off, QI Media.
Salute, salute. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. One of the things that I am wondering, the main question that should be asked is the lack of adult supervision. I was taught in school that whenever something happens to you or whenever somebody does something to you, you should always go to the teacher or the adult. And I'm wondering why Austin Metcalf took things in his own hand to approach to be the aggressor towards Karmelo Anthony when he should have gone to an adult. And it's clear that there was a possibility that there was no adult in the canopy or under the canopy, because as stated, they're saying that Karmelo ran out of the tent and had to run to a coach.
Right.
While they were trying to say that he was fleeing, he had to run to a coach, and he stayed with the coach until, police came. So the question that nobody is asking, which puts a lot of responsibility back into the hands of the schools or the school system, is why was there a lack of adult supervision, and why did Austin Metcalf take it upon himself to approach Karmelo Anthony?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Maybe they'll address it during court, because it feels like, and I don't know for sure, and we're only talking about the facts, but we haven't. I'm curious what eyewitnesses are going to say. I don't even know why they played the tape if nobody could see it. That's what they're saying. But
Oh, but then
yeah,
if Nick at night not seen it, right? So
yeah, Nick at night says she's seen it
at the courthouse. So maybe they showing it to the jurors and showing it to other people, maybe, but I don't know.
Because isn't a public school public property? So even if
they
it
weren't
was
at school, they were at a park near the school, and that makes it public domain.
Yeah, it was public domain. That's what I'm trying to say. So if it's public domain, it's not that it's not like Karmelo Anthony would say, okay, well, it's raining and I would be trespassing if I stand under this canopy because it's raining. Since it's public domain, and Karmelo was like, it's raining. This is the closest shelter. I'm going to go stand under here. Or if, like they were saying, his girlfriend had friends over there, or friends were over there, there's no need for him to feel as though he was trespassing or doing anything that was against the law. And I think in a lot of ways, we're looking at this more like these were adults, instead of looking at this like this was a school event. These were children. This is high school, and there needed to be a presence of adult supervision.
I mean, that does make a difference that he has friends. Well, I think it makes a difference. Let's see if the jury thinks it makes a difference that he had friends under the tent.
Right.
And I'm thinking the friends have to testify. And, so this is just day 3, the first day of hearing testimony. We got a long ways to go. But as of today, you feel who is the aggressor?
I feel that Austin Metcalf definitely was the aggressor, because that wasn't his position or place to approach, Karmelo Anthony, to ask him to leave. And then even after, if Karmelo said, put your hands on me and you'll see what happens, at that point, Austin should have went and found an adult, not put his hands on him as though, he had authority to do so. He should have gone to an adult at that point. There should have been he shouldn't have put his hands on him under any circumstances, period.
Well, thank you for calling in. I appreciate you. Don't be a stranger. Call back in, okay? Take care.
No problem.
Same. Right. Lots going on. Is it Yosha? Can you hear me?
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Oh, yes. We can hear you now.
How y'all doing? So to piggyback off the last caller, what they're saying is that the reason why the twin approached him because the coach sent him a text that morning and said, "Hey, I need you to be the team leader and take care of everything as a team leader." So that's why he felt the nerve to approach him. Now,
You're
mind
talking
you,
about
the game
you're
haven't
talking about
started yet.
Austin?
So they didn't have names on the tent. And mind you, it's not really a tent, it's like a canopy.
Right.
They didn't have names on it. It was, if you look at the video as they describe it, their team tent was the only one out there. Like, it was early in the morning, so people were still gathering in for the games. And the weather was so bad to where he wanted to take shelter. He knew someone, and that's why he was sitting underneath it. But they didn't even have a name on the tent. And then also, Karmelo Anthony team school didn't even have a tent out there. They didn't have a tent at all.
Let me confirm what you're saying, because it hasn't been.
Also, when they're saying that Karmelo Anthony was 130 pounds. And the twins, they played football. It was like I think they said 5'9" to 6'1", something like that, 230 pounds apiece. So both of them approaching him with 3 other big guys. Why did it take all that just to ask him to leave? I believe they came with aggression, and that's why he stood up like that. Now, whether he said, "Touch me and find out," or "If you touch me," one of them things, I feel like whether it was one of those, it really don't matter. I think his aggression they came at him with aggression, and that's why he said what he said.
Yeah.
But you just said something, and I wanted to clarify it.
Yeah,
You said
my
that
opinion on it. I have a lot on it, but I'm more of a fact person. And then also, let me say this too, that we find out that him having that knife wasn't against the law. The defense attorney said that.
Yeah.
Because it was under 5, it was like 5 inches, something long like that. But when the defense was talking to the jurors and asking them questions, and they said, "Well, would this make you change your decision?" When it was looking for jurors, if I tell you that him having a knife wasn't against the law.
Ooh, it's a lot. It's a difficult case.
That's interesting, but I'm here
juror.
for it, and I just want to get more facts and keep hearing the story. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to say. Y'all have a good day. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for calling.
All right, bye-bye.
She said something very interesting. She said that Austin got a text message from the coach telling him to make sure no trouble. I don't know. I have to go look that up.
Basically, like to be a team leader or something. But
yeah, the team leader. Okay.
Because I thought he just played football. Austin did, but I'm not sure. I mean, but it's either here or there. I mean, that could have motivated him to go. But what we got to find out for sure, while Karmelo was in that tent, was Metcalf already there in the tent? Because I've heard, now this is not from court, just some video, that they ran over, or did his twin brother run over? Because being provoked is one thing. If 2 big guys run up or get out, I'm being provoked, right?
Yeah.
So he provoking you back, saying, "Hey, don't touch me," or this is gonna happen. But Austin Metcalf should have never put his hands on him. Now, granted, by saying that, then shouldn't have unalived him neither. But that could have been a mistake or whatever. Maybe that wasn't his intentions. You know what I mean? Maybe he was in fear for his life. And I'd like to see what this video is, a scenario where he felt surrounded, because at least if you can't have it clear, it'll show if a group of people charged him or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So we got into tomorrow.
So listen, we just went on a spirit of the moment. We will be back tomorrow now that we know that Court TV is covering it. I will look into these text messages because I haven't heard about them. I wanted to see if it's facts or rumors. I will look into that. But let's just gather tomorrow, you guys, and hear what else is going on. This is a sad case all the way around. It's just sad. But let's see what happens. Perry, you got any final words?
No, that's it. I mean, for sure, now that we can get some word from the courthouse, because I was disappointed because we couldn't, but
Yeah.
if we're going to get some correspondence come out every so often, at least we can find out what's actually happening. And so,
all right, you guys, I'll
tomorrow.
see you tomorrow. Yeah. Around lunchtime on the East Coast, that's when they go out for their first break. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody for listening. Please leave your comments in the comment section. No racial slurs. Besides that, say whatever you want to say.
Right.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
See you guys tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
This shit I'm out.